Linlithgow is one of Scotland's most historic and beautifully situated towns. The majestic Linlithgow Palace is situated on the south shore of the scenic Linlithgow Loch in the center of Linlithgow. Prior to the 17th century, Linlithgow Palace was a favourite seat of the Scottish monarchy. To get to Linlithgow, we started from Waverley, Edinburgh. The town is easily accessible from Edinburgh through the train service to Glasgow Queen Street. The journey was less than half an hour, and even that evaporated very quickly. You can see why. I've just reached Linlithgow. Much to see here, but on top of my agenda list are its magnificent palace and the serene loch. To get to the palace, we left the station and made it to the high street close by. Then we turned left and continued to walk for about 5 minutes until we saw the focal point of Linlithgow to our right, the famous Crosswell. Notice the street right next to the Crosswell, seemingly going uphill. We walked onto this street. It leads towards the palace. On way, we pass the Burgh Halls, the 17th century town house, and the headquarters of Linlithgow Town Council. To our right now was the St. Michael's Parish Church, largely rebuilt after a fire in 1424. Notice the 4 carved panels above the palace gatehouse, which represent the orders of chivalry to which James V belonged. This palace gatehouse is the outer entrance and was built around 5 centuries back. The construction of Linlithgow Palace was initiated in 1425 by James I. It was once a magnificent palace, built and lived in by successive Stuart kings, and where Mary Queen of Scots was born. On the 1st of February 1746, the north section of the palace caught fire after being occupied by soldiers of the Duke of Cumberland. The building was gutted. Though in ruins now, Linlithgow Palace is still an impressive and exciting sight. I have just entered this grand Linlithgow Palace and am standing in the courtyard with the magnificent and famous fountain. This amazing fountain was built by King James V, probably as a wedding present for one of his French queens, the Mary of Guise. Usually the fountain ran with water, but on special occasions it ran with red wine. Notice the crown at the top, the statue of a lion symbolizing royalty, as well as the statues of unicorns as guardians of royalty. The courtyard itself was one of the most dazzling buildings in Scotland 5 centuries back. The 4 sides of the courtyard were all built at different times by different kings, It used to be brightly painted with statues on the walls. To the right of the current entrance across the fountain is the East Range, the oldest part of the palace. Here is the old gateway entrance built by King James I nearly 6 centuries ago. I went back to the courtyard and walked around the outside of the palace to see the old entry from the outside. I had to walk through the old dry moat where all the rubbish would be thrown. The impressive original entrance faced towards Edinburgh. You can see the original entrance of the Linlithgow Palace right behind me. The giant grooves either side of the carved shield are for the beams of the drawbridge, which was lowered to let people in. Back into the palace, the mysterious alleys surrounding the courtyard represent the guard rooms and the prison below these rooms. Even the wine cellar opposite to the old entrance in the courtyard has peculiar atmosphere. Notice the small window for the king to check on his wine supplies. I climbed the stairs to reach the upper story of the palace. I'm at the Great Hall now, the enormous feasting hall which was used for grand celebrations. The hall would have looked very different in the old days. Before it burned down, there would have been a high roof with wooden beams. The walls would have been plastered and painted brightly. This is a visualization of James IV's Easter feast of 1512 in this great hall. The Scottish Parliament met in the Great Hall on several occasions until the mid-17th century. Queen Elizabeth held a reception here on the 2nd of July 1955. The great fireplace is said to be the largest in Scotland. When the hall was full, whole tree trunks would be burnt in the fireplace. The king would sit at the fireplace end of the hall with up to 300 people eating together. I next stepped into the medieval chapel adjacent to the Great Hall. There used to be an altar here, an organ, lovely stained glass windows, and beautifully painted statues. The ceiling was painted blue. The chapel leads to the king's apartments, built for King James IV. This was where the king met visitors, slept and worked. This is the King's Hall, a kind of waiting room. Look to your right to see a kind of board game set into the floor, maybe a kind of noughts and crosses game. I was a little bit disappointed by the lack of labeling and guidance for this area of the palace. Next up on the same floor was the birthplace of Mary, Queen of Scots, unfortunately closed for maintenance and repairs. The small museum in the corridor parallel to the chapel has some interesting objects, wine bottles and pots from the 17th century, as well as this key which was presented to Queen Elizabeth during her visit in 1955.
So we climbed hundreds of steps to get to the top of the palace and get to the place where Queen Margaret used to reportedly sit and wait for her husband. This is Queen Margaret's bower, where she used to sit and wait for her husband.
Queen Margaret was the wife of King James IV, who was killed at the Battle of Flodden. Unfortunately, the historical graffiti inside this tiny room is not properly documented.
And let's have a view of what she exactly saw from here.
Indeed, the bower offers great views across Scotland. Sir Walter Scott has written a poem about the Queen's sad wait for her husband. We all loved the virtual reality reconstruction of what the chapel looked like 5 centuries back. My little one is currently floating through the chapel and is able to return to the present by pressing a button. We left the palace to make our way to the picturesque loch. Stuart kings and queens walked in the pleasure gardens and by the loch and hunted in the park. Eels from the loch were once a famed delicacy supplied to the royal tables at Linlithgow, Edinburgh and Stirling.
Here we are with the very scenic loch, the lush green peel surrounding it.
There is a wider area of parkland or peel around the palace and the loch. It is one of the only 2 royal parks in Scotland, the other being the Holyrood Park in Edinburgh. The lower parkland was in fact the venue for local cricket matches until 1930. However, currently the most popular recreation is probably the walk around the loch, facilitated through the creation of formal footpaths. Nowadays, the loch is mainly a recreational resource for fishing, canoeing, kayaking, and windsurfing, and also a wildlife sanctuary. A total of 90 species has in fact been recorded here. You might also like to see my video about 6 must-see Edinburgh attractions.
I've climbed 143 steps to the top of the Nelson Monument, and I'm totally mesmerized by the views.
For her Harry Potter novels, J.K. Rowling visited and used some of the names on the tombs in this Courtyard.